He was the first African American to play Major League Baseball. Now, before you shout, "Who is Jackie Robinson?" like this was Final Jeopardy, hold on a second. This was before the start of the Negro Leagues, long before Jackie, and even before Moses Fleetwood Walker laced up his cleats. We're talking about a man you've probably never heard of, William Edward White. The year is 1879. The Providence Grays, a National League team, are short a first baseman. Their regular guy, Joe Start, is injured. In steps William Edward White, a student from Brown University, to fill in. He plays one fantastic single game and helps the Grays win 5-3. And then he disappears from baseball forever. No contract, no comeback, just one box score and a bunch of unanswered questions. So who was this guy? Well, if you like baseball history and a good mystery, stick around, because this is a truly fascinating story about identity, race, social norms, and of course, baseball. This is African American History is American History. Now, according to the sleuths over at the Society for American Baseball Research, as well as numerous sports reporters and historians, William Edward White was the very first African American to play in the major leagues. His story starts in Milner, Georgia, 1860, where he was born the son of Andrew Jackson White, a well-to-do merchant and railroad president in Milner, who at one time owned 70 slaves. One of them was William's mother, Hannah. In 1877, William was listed in A.J. White's will, along with his two siblings, as the children of, quote, his servant, Hannah, end quote. The will stipulated they be freed and sent north for schooling. This wasn't uncommon then for black or mixed-race children to be sent north to be educated. Young William attended a Quaker boarding school in Providence, Rhode Island, before matriculating at Brown University. Records at Brown show A.J. White as William's father. They also listed William White as White. This is African American History is American History. William Edward White played baseball while as a student at Brown University. And he was very good, so much so that after first baseman Joe Start broke a finger, the Providence Grays, who played in the National League between 1878 and 1885, went to Brown and recruited the 18-year-old freshman to fill in. With the big game on the line, White, on June 21st, 1879, got a hit, scored a run, stole 2 bases, and fielded 12 putouts flawlessly in a 5-3 win over the visiting Cleveland Blues. The Providence Morning Star reported that White's collegiate teammates, quote, howled with delight from the stands, end quote. The Providence Journal said White, quote, played first base in fine style and has been engaged to cover first in an upcoming series with Boston, end quote. But White didn't play for the Grays against Boston, or ever again. Outfielder and future Hall of Famer Jim O'Rourke took over at first. Did the Grays decide they could make do without an extra player? Did the veterans balk at including a college student in the lineup? Or was White not invited to return because his mixed-race status became known or was suspected? William Edward White graduated Brown University in 1883, and he continued to hide his identity. In census after census, beginning in 1900, he marked himself as white. He eventually moved to Chicago, worked as a bookkeeper, and later a draftsman. He married a white woman named Hattie Hill. They had 3 daughters, and for a while lived a nice, quiet life, far from the public eye. But sometime in the 1910s, White separated from the family, and his whereabouts for the next few years are unknown. White's name reappears in a 1923 Chicago City directory, and it seems that he may have fallen on hard times, as his address is listed as McQuinn's Peerless Hotel, which was a 25 cents a night flop house. This is African American History is American History. In 2014, William White's only grandchild, Lois DeAngelis, said her family had been unaware of White's role in baseball history and of his racial background. DeAngelis, who was 71 years old at the time of the interview and lived in Grays Lake, Illinois, said, quote,
well, I know my grandfather worked as an artist. He'd been published in the Saturday Evening Post and another magazine, but I don't recall the name. I knew that he was separated from my grandmother, Hattie. She worked as a secretary for Sears.
But that's all she knew about William Edward White. White's wife, Hattie, lived until 1970. DeAngelis doubted that Hattie would have known White was 1/4 black, at least before they were married.
My grandmother was a very prudish woman, very English. Neither Grandma Hattie nor my mother Vera ever mentioned why they separated. It could be that my grandfather left the household because Hattie discovered his racial history, but I doubt it. Oh, that's funny when I think of my grandmother. She would die if she knew he was black.
Now, we don't know exactly why he chose to pass as white, but we can guess. The world William Edward White lived in was harsh, especially for a man of mixed heritage. Being black in 19th century America meant facing systemic racism, violence, exclusion, and a host of daily indignities. His choice to pass may not have been as much about betrayal as about survival, having control in a world that, at that time, offered Black Americans none at all. Still, it was a choice that came at a high cost, living a life in the margins of two worlds and never fully belonging to either one. William Edward White died in 1937 at the age of 76 due to blood poisoning following a slip on an icy sidewalk, which resulted in a broken arm. He left behind no memoirs, no interviews, and no mention of that one fantastic summer day when he made baseball history. This has been African American History is American History. I'm Harlan Kearsley. Thank you for listening. And if you haven't done so, please subscribe. Once you do, you'll be notified as soon as new episodes are posted. Thanks again, and please stay safe. African American History is American History. Copyright H.C. Kearsley, 2025.